Hello and good morning. I'm very happy to welcome you to my presentation titled The Guides Framework, Enhancing Engineering Education with GenAI. My name is Junaid Qadir. I'm a professor of computer engineering at the College of Engineering at Qatar University. So let me get started. The outline of today's presentation would initially focus on the generative AI disruption, promise, and peril for education. And then I will introduce my framework, which has 6 components. It's titled Guides, and therein we will discuss 6 issues, which I think can help create a better and a more effective engineering education system for the GenAI era. The 6 items are: the AI that we use should be grounded. We should focus on humane education. The use of AI should focus on developing the intentionality among the learners and the educationists. The education that we promote must be dialogic, and it should focus on experiential education. And at the end, we will talk about how at the end, our focus should be on humans and on developing human selves. So let us get started with the first point. Just a few slides on the promise and the perils of GenAI. GenAI has come to popular attention since late 2022, when ChatGPT was launched to great fanfare. It turned out that ChatGPT was the fastest application or technology to have such popular adoption. It reached 1 million users in just 5 days. When you compare it to other tools, the rate of adoption has been phenomenal. But GenAI is not just ChatGPT. We could also talk of other GenAI tools that are able to generate different modalities, image, speech. We have now also vision language models, and the technology continues unabated. So what we have now is just a teaser of things to come. So even with these technologies already in place, we see that there has been huge interest in the academia and amongst the educationists in using these technologies, and also seeing how traditional ways of assessment would not work when you have these powerful technologies. So this is an essay in The Atlantic, which mentions that the typical college essay that was used to see the writing ability, the critical thinking ability of students is no longer sufficient, because you could easily use GenAI tools to automatically create the answers that are desired. And the same is happening in other fields such as medical domain, business, law, engineering. I wrote a paper on engineering education, which was presented in EDUCON 2023. But we need to realize that this taking things on autopilot mode, it has many pitfalls as well, as illustrated by Nicholas Carr in his book, The Glass Cage. Automation has its own set of challenges, and we will just, I'll refer you to our paper for more details on what these challenges are, and you could also read the book, The Glass Cage. I will just briefly mention how education needs to be human-centered, because it is at the end of the day, it is about human beings that we are educating, and we are educating for a purpose. And the purpose could be to qualify people and with certain skills, but it also must have an element in which we teach our students how they can be effective members of a society, and also their human selves, they become more capable and more they fulfill their potential. So when it comes to thinking about what the humans can do, AI currently can automate certain human tasks. The circle, this dark green circle, is expanding, but we need to focus more on what the humans can do with AI in concert. So the co-pilot mode instead of the autopilot mode is more promising. Some authors have referred to this as the Turing trap. When we focus more on automation and on developing intelligent machines and smart tutors and whatnot, instead of augmenting and enhancing the situation and the lot of the human beings. So our focus then would be to use technology to support the education process, not to automate it. So with that in mind, let me present to you the framework that we have written about in our paper. It has 6 components. It is called the Guides Framework. It's an acronym which refers to the 6 items that we have. Let's get started. I will briefly be mentioning the 6 items with just very brief information of what that refers to. And I refer our interested audience members to the paper to find more. So the first thing is that the AI that we use must be grounded. We know that the Gen AI tools that we currently have, they can hallucinate. This is because these Gen AI tools are just designed as tools to create things that is high probability, and it captures the trends that were seen in many of the data in which it was trained. So it's not exactly outputting the same text, but stochastically, it is following the most probable path. So with this, especially with very large models, we see we have this emergent capability that the things that we get are often correct, they are plausible. However, it's not the same thing as having a grounded AI system. So we need to ensure at a technical level that the technology that we use is trustworthy. And for that, some technology has been developed. However, we need to have this as part of our framework, that whatever AI that we have and the way we use it in our actual practice does not disregard facts, because if we want this to be used in a critical domain such as education, it must be grounded. Because of the fact that these tools sometimes can hallucinate, other people use the word confabulate. Some experts have called these models castles in the air, in the sense that they do not have any strong foundation, and the technology must evolve so that it is based on a strong foundation. So this is an example I had in one of my paper. I asked ChatGPT this question, a simple maths question, asking for the derivative of a function. It gave me a nice essay-like response. It turns out that the answer is correct. However, the reasoning it is providing is not. And this is typical for these tools. If we just use like their current method of using autoregressive large language models, but there are already techniques out there which people have proposed to offset some of these limitations. But the important thing is we do not just rely uncritically on AI. We must try to ground it in facts and to ensure that it is actually appropriate for the things that we are doing. Especially if we do not just use these models for language tasks such as improving grammar, but especially when dealing with things that are related to the real world, in which facts are important. This goes back to Socratic critique of technology. He was actually referring to the writing technology. He was not a fan of writing things down. And he said that, these tools, they impart not truth, but a semblance of truth. And you may see people appearing omniscient, but they will generally not know anything. So the important thing is, in education, we focus on the foundations rather than just on the appearances. And any system that has to be used in education must be therefore be grounded. These current tools, they have many issues, which even their proponents are admitting to. So we must therefore come up with better AI systems, and we must mitigate the risks that arise when we have this problem of hallucination. Let's go on now to the second item, humane, which highlights the fact that education must be human-centered. Our pedagogy, our literacy, the way we design our technology should be focused on enhancing human agency, human capabilities, and human interactions. And this is also then going to serve as the criteria through which we can judge the way we are implementing educational technology. So instead of focusing on just the machines, like the famous Turing test, can machines think? We can focus more on augmentation, think about what the humans can do with and without the technology. We must be also careful about the metaphors we use, because sometimes some people think of these AI models as showing superhuman performance and thinking of human beings as deficient robots, for instance. However, we need to know, and we must start with this supposition that human beings are holistic beings, and the things that we are able to capture with these AI models are just a sliver of what it means to be a human. So we must not forget our humanity, and we must think carefully of how we must think carefully as a society and as people focused on pedagogy, that how we are actually using these technologies to enhance and not diminish our humanity. The third item is that we must be intentional in how we use AI. We must promote active learning. We must promote iterative interactions rather than just bypassing the whole educational process by just focusing on the answers. Because with GenAI, it's very easy to have the entire essay written. It is very easy to just go from the question to the answer without actually going through the educational process. So for that, I recommend in this framework that we must be intentional, and we must make educational intentional and make it more active. Because educationists, they know that effective learning actually means refusing passivity, engaging, exploring, and actively generating hypotheses and testing them on the outside world. So if we take this view of learning, AI can be helpful to an extent, but it cannot supplant this entire process. So we must be intentional in how we use these AI tools to actually promote active learning. So we also must be aware that it is easy to take shortcuts, but as many experts, including Stephen Covey in his famous book, The 7 Habits, he talks of the law of the harvest. So natural processes, and education is a natural process because it involves human beings. They cannot be shortcutted in the sense that we cannot cram all knowledge into human beings instantaneously. Education has been and will remain a gradual process. So we must focus on, being intentional in how we learn and being gradual and building up our knowledge base and building up our skills. So cramming, outsourcing, copying, or other ways of cheating and plagiarizing can superficially show that you have learned something. But like Richard Feynman says, that we must not fool ourselves to think that this is equal to learning. So the law of the harvest is that it takes time to do these kinds of things. And in education, there is also this theory of desirable difficulties. If we are using GenAI to immediately have the answers, we forsake these desirable difficulties, which are actually part and parcel of learning, making mistakes, grappling with something complex, connecting it back to what you already know, and then solving your own confusions. That is all part of learning. So while ChatGPT or other GenAI tools can be helpful, we should not remove or even try to remove all friction from education and make it instantaneous, because that would be supplanting the process of education. It will be shortcutting it rather than promoting it. We now come to the next item, which is dialogic education. We need to have dialogue rather than a monologue. So for this, AI can be helpful. And we know that GenAI, in particular, ChatGPT, has impressive conversational capabilities. It can be given certain roles, and you could engage in intelligent conversation with it, which is very impressive. It can give you many ideas. So a lot has been written on the immense educational opportunities we can have with these tools. So we must design the use of these tools such that it is promoting dialogic learning. So for this, it would help if we teach our students and if we learn ourselves how to ask good questions. In this book, the authors refer to the inquiry quotient. One part of our humanity is also our curiosity. And unfortunately, schooling often kills our curiosity. But with appropriate pedagogy and the use of educational technology, we can actually enhance our inquiry quotient. So we can use GenAI to encourage and promote the students asking their own questions and doing their own inquiry and to effectively become researchers. So it used to be said that computers can only give you answers. In some sense, computers can be helpful for dialogue as well. You could go on and have a good interaction with it. However, the importance of giving the right prompt and asking the right question is more important than ever. We also have this model of dialogic education amongst people who work in pedagogy and educational theory. One book is referred here. In the context of GenAI, the important thing is that we focus on multi-turn interactions. We teach our students not to just rely on just copy-pasting the question and then getting the answer out. However, to use GenAI in a multi-turn, few-shot fashion in which you have a long dialogue. You get something, you do some more research, you think about it, you process it, you ask new questions. And this is how you would do your own research and how you would actually add value beyond what you are getting zero shot from the GenAI tool. The fifth item I want to talk about is that education must be experiential, and GenAI again can help in that, but cannot completely give people the experience that they require, which would involve working in the real world, going out and acting on the real world, having real world experiences. GenAI and other kinds of AI can be helpful, but it's important to emphasize that human beings, we must have embodied cognition, which requires us to act in the real world. So just having a chat with any GenAI tool would not be sufficient. We need to learn how to effectively use these tools such that it helps people in enhancing contextual intelligence, which requires obviously acting in the real world in an embodied sense. Finally, our framework has this element called self-development, which focuses on creating free, creative, and independent individuals who can appreciate cultural achievements and contribute to society. This again goes back to the same idea that we must focus on the human, and it is the human consciousness that we want to develop, the human subjectivity that we want to develop, so that every individual can achieve their unique potential. So for that, we came up with this guiding imperatives. The first law, this is in the sense of the 3 laws of robotics proposed by Isaac Asimov. The first law says that we must critically embrace change. We must leverage AI, and we should not be worse than zero-shot AI, because in many cases, you can just go and put the question to AI and it will come with a reasonable response. So someone who is not even as good as this is actually losing an opportunity. So we should always, whenever AI is accessible, we should try out what AI says, but we should not be limited to only what the first zero-shot response is. We should be interactive. We should ask more queries. We should engage in the research and become AI proof in the sense that you should offer something more than what the AI is giving zero shot. So you must have things that you bring to the table. If you want to have human AI collaboration, the role of the human is pivotal, and we want to keep the humans in charge. So AI is just a co-pilot. The pilot, the real driver, is supposed to be the human being. So it requires us to maintain our competitive advantage, to have knowledge, to actually know the things through which you can judge the performance of AI. You must be learned enough to know where the AI is making a mistake. So we must balance learning in modes in which we have technology and in which we are not using technology, just to build our own capabilities. Finally, we have this idea that we should not outsource our thinking entirely, because if we do that, we will become dependent and addicted on AI. So we should have this balance where we are no worse than AI, but we also have our own competitive advantage. The landscape itself will be changing because AI will be becoming more and more intelligent. At the same time, humans must remain in charge. And for that, they require upskilling. As educationists, we have to think about how we should be teaching them and what kinds of literacy they require. So this requires a lot of research and collaboration. I am happy to present this work to you, and I look forward to any comments and suggestions and any interest in collaboration. I can be reached in this way using the email address that is shown on the slide. Thank you very much.